guys, it is April from Getting Huggy With It. Before the weather becomes like properly fall, where the leaves are completely changing and it's freezing, I figured I should probably do my top 5 books that I read this past summer. These are 5-star reads to me. I absolutely adored them all, and there are some good ones in here, so I wanted to share them with you. So let's get into it. The first book I want to talk to you about is To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. I cannot believe that I hadn't read To Kill a Mockingbird before. I feel that that's like almost sacrilegious. It's so awful. But I really loved this, and I can see why this is totally in the canon. If you haven't read To Kill a Mockingbird, this follows Scout and her brother, and they are growing up in the South. And their father is a lawyer, and he takes on a case for a black man who is accused of raping a white woman. They really encounter and start to understand the concept of racism for the first time in their lives. Their father is kind of publicly humiliated for representing a black man in this case, and they themselves are dealing with the ramifications of that as well. But this is just such a gorgeous book. It's written really beautifully, and I can't believe that Harper Lee was able to write this at a time where, you know, racial tension was kind of at its height, or at one of its heights. I should not say at its height, because it continues to be ongoing, and To Kill a Mockingbird is just as relevant today as it was in the 60s. But I just thought it took a lot of presence of mind to be able to write it in this way, and I really, you know, my hat goes off to her for writing this book. The next book that I want to talk to you about is Every Heart a Doorway. Now this is a short book. We're talking just over 100 pages. I read it in either 1 or 2 days and absolutely loved it. It's kind of fantasy, mystery kind of book about a group of children who've gone to different worlds. Some of them have gone to Narnia and others have gone to Neverland. And when they come back home, they're obviously distraught. They actually want to be back in their other world. And their parents just don't know what to do with them. So they send all of these kids to a boarding house. And at this boarding house, they learn to cope with being back in the real world, and they can kind of lean on each other and relate to each other. This is the first in a series. I'm so eager to read Down Among the Sticks and Bones next. I've got that on hold at the library, so I'm just waiting for that to come in for me. And I believe that the author is going to be publishing the next in the series very soon. It's something in the Sugar Sky. I can't remember what it's called, but I loved this book. This is dark, but not too dark, but I just loved it. I could not put it down. And it was Julie from A Girl and a Book that recommended it to me. And so thank you so much, Julie. I loved it. Next, I absolutely adored I'm Thinking of Ending Things. If you are in the mood for a good thriller, this is like just the ticket. This is about a girl who's on a road trip with her boyfriend, and they're on the way to his family's home, and he lives in farmland, so they're kind of driving out into the middle of nowhere. And you know, she should be excited, she's meeting the family, and yet she's just thinking like, I'm thinking of ending things. This isn't working out for me. And simultaneously, as these things are going through her mind, she's been receiving phone calls from someone who's leaving very strange messages on her phone. They're a little bit threatening, they're nerve-wracking. This book has so many scenes that are lodged in my brain for life that totally creeped me out. I feel like I'm Thinking of Ending Things is almost borderline horror because of those scenes that stay in your mind forever. It scared me. like crazy. So if you need a good thriller, look no further. I also absolutely adored Unbroken. This is a nonfiction book about a man who lived through World War II. He was actually an Olympic runner before that. And then he went into World War II when that war broke out. And his plane went down and he was taken captive by the Japanese, and he lived in a POW camp. And he survived so many horrors. I can't believe that this man lived through it all. He had so many brushes with death that I was just glued to this book. I could not put it down. And after reading this, I definitely want to read the author's other book, Seabiscuit, which is about horse racing. And I have no interest in horse racing, but the way that she writes nonfiction is like you're reading a novel. It is absolutely like that, which is very hard to do, I would say. It gives you little bits of background to set up the story and the history, but only just so much. And then she moves into the personal story. So it's just the best of both worlds. If you haven't read Unbroken yet, please do it. You will not regret it. And the last book that I absolutely loved reading this summer is Final Girls by Riley Sager. This came out this summer and oh my gosh, it was amazing. This is about a girl who survives like a brutal, crazy massacre. She and her friends were staying at a little cottage for the weekend, and someone comes in and kills everyone except our main character, and she survives, and she's known as a final girl because of that. And there are a couple of other final girls who've also gone through their own horrors, and they kind of keep tabs on each other and make sure that one another are okay. And all of a sudden, one of the final girls dies. And it's unclear whether or not she committed suicide or was she murdered. Our main character is trying to get to the bottom of it because she wants to know, is someone going around killing these final girls? And hello, I'm one of them. It's so much fun. This is a page turner. Now, it's not the most eloquently written thriller that I've ever read, but I couldn't put it down. And it felt like a really big homage to the horror film industry. This felt like you were in a Scream movie. It felt like you were watching, Halloween. So if you liked those kinds of movies in the 90s and 80s, you'll probably really like Final Girls. I found Final Girls incredibly refreshing for the thriller genre because I feel like there's a lot of, domestic thrillers and that kind of thing, and I enjoy that for sure, but it kind of feels like, Gone Girl was big, okay, I'll write something like Gone Girl, or A Girl on a Train was big and I'll write something along those lines. And it feels like nothing new was coming out of the thriller genre until I read Final Girls, and I was like, yes, this is right up my alley. We needed this. And hopefully this gives authors who write thrillers the permission to just write what you want to write and don't try to copy anybody else. You don't need to. You don't need to fit in any box. We just want to read scary books. So those were all of the books that I read this summer that I absolutely loved. They're my top 5 cream of the crop books. What was the book this summer that you read that you were like, this is hands down the best I've read? I'd love to know, so leave that in the comments below. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. All you have to do is click that button, and I would love to have you see my channel more often. I will see you soon. Bye!